And this what's coming up really is those a lot of us are being shown new paths, and paths that like we can't really see what's in front of us. So but our heads are still like in the game, and we've been spending a lot of years. Oh, awesome, Amy. Thank you. I happy you liked it. And we've been spending a lot of years in our head, and now we're really starting to move into our heart and our soul and all that. But sometimes we don't always know what the difference is between like being in our heart, being in our soul, or maybe being in our fear. And it gets a little mixed up and a little weird. So I wanted to talk about what that looks like, what it looks like to be heart led. And also to just know that I like heart and soul are kind of synonymous to me, because I feel that our heart is what connects us to the higher self, and that's really where we're trying to come from. But we exist in a body, and we also have a mind. So we're these three things that are trying to figure out how to exist here on earth, but in a way that we are heart led and we are connected to our soul. Okay, so awesome, Mona, this is a good one for you for sure. So first I want to talk about is what we are. So, because we first kind of have to know what we are in order to understand how to get to our soul. So, like I mentioned before, and those of you who are soul seekers, you've heard me talk about this, but sometimes, we have to hear these conversations a few times over, but we are mind, body, and soul. So, we're like the triangle, right? And we are we are a soul, right? So those of you who have been to the Akashic records, or have had a reading with myself or one of the mentors, your soul is like where we're pulling all this information from. Like, or when you go into the Akashic records, that's your soul, that's your essence. It's lived for many lifetimes, and that soul is seated in your body this lifetime, right? It's like that little piece of energy, that energy that I'm always trying to ground with you guys, exists inside your body. And that is the higher self. That is the part of us that knows a lot more than our human self right now today. So that soul sits inside the body, but then we have a body, which is how we can feel everything on earth. We need this body to actually feel all the physical things and to understand ourselves better. So a lot of souls, when I was reading somebody today who's a really old soul, and she like has to slow down, and she's like, but I don't understand what that means. And I was like, oh, that's so funny, because your soul is so used to being a soul that like when it came to this lifetime, it is not excited about being in a body because the body slows it down, right? So a lot of us resent our body because we're like, stupid thing I have to drag around, or maybe it's making me feel certain ways, or I don't like how it looks, all these different things. But the body is super necessary, and it has its own wisdom. But really it's our connection to our senses, to be able to touch, to feel. We get all this information, all this feedback from it. So it's like a really obviously amazing tool. Then in addition to that, we have a brain, our mind, which basically helps us direct, right, all the things that we're doing. It's helping us interact with life here. So we need those brains. It's what helps us create. It is the connection to our consciousness. So it helps us create in this form. But many times we get like mixed up, and some of us really exist in our head. Who loves to exist in their head? Raise your hand. Where are my logical friends? Where am I like, but how's this gonna work? Right? How's this gonna work? I see your hands going up. Um, I hear you. Yes, Joanna. Beautiful. How's this gonna work? How's this gonna pan? Right? Like, or the worst is when like you're trying to see a path and you're only seeing what you know, right? Because your mind is like, well, it can only happen like these three ways, because it's like all your mind knows. It's the only experience you've had, right? And sometimes we exist all in here to the point that we're so disconnected from the body, and we're all like from neck up, right? And that's not good either, because we're missing so many things at that point. And also, some of us like to hang out here and like kind of exist in the future, visualize all these kind of things, like do mantras. But if we're not grounded in our full body, then we can't manifest anything. Because remember, in the spirit world, you can do all sorts of stuff just by your consciousness. But in the human experience, we have to be in our body to be able to manifest things. So, in other words, it's like the friend who's always dreaming and telling you, like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, but never follows through, it's because they're visioning and they're seeing things and they're having these experiences, but they're not grounded into their body and they're not doing anything physical. So therefore, there's no physical manifestation, right? Does that make sense? So we have to understand these three things and know, and then know how we want to use them. The third part of us is our soul, right? And our soul is right here. It's in our heart. So we have to be able to bring the energy down from our head into our heart to know where we're being called to know where things are moving to, all that kind of stuff. So the idea is that typically we feel into our soul first, like our heart, and then we start being like, okay, cool. Like now I have a feeling about like where I'm supposed to go. So I am going to start using my mind and my pineal gland, everything that's up here, the third eye, to now be able to like project some things into the future now that I have a feeling of like where I'm being called to. But typically we like come up with these ideas and we come up with these strategies and these plans, and we don't consult with the heart. So we really want to start to come from this place. The heart is one of the most guarded parts of us. When I'm scanning people's energy, the heart is typically very guarded, and it takes time to start opening up that heart. And so that's why not a lot of us have access to it, myself included. Many years ago, like my work was really to open my heart and to come from that place. But we typically are connected to like the sensitivities of our body in that area, so we don't really like want to come from the heart. We're like always trying to protect it and all this kind of stuff. But what's really funny is the heart is so strong. The heart has courage and bravery in it and all that, but we really try to, keep it all safe. And really, when we get hurt, let's say you get like dumped, right, by like a boyfriend or girlfriend, and you're totally hurt, you're totally devastated, or you lose a job or whatever, those are our sensitivities. That's actually like our body being sensitive to certain emotions or vibrations, but that's not our heart. But what happens is that we think it's the energy of the heart, so we start closing this area and like not allowing ourselves to feel as much anymore. But really the truth is like the heart is so much stronger than that. So we're always really trying to open it. We're always really trying to come from that place. Now, some of us have thought we've used the heart before, like, oh, I've followed my heart before and I totally got screwed. I totally got fucked. So, who has had that experience, right? That you're like, I thought I followed my heart. I thought I was supposed to be with this person. I thought I was supposed to follow that job or move to that place. And it was like not the right thing. So, that can be, I see so many of you. Hi, hi. So, that can feel very damaging because we feel like we can't trust ourselves or that we got it wrong. And the truth, the thing is that because the body has like these impulses, and what happens is sometimes like when we feel we're supposed to go somewhere, we we feel like the call, and then all of a sudden we come up with like the story of like how it's supposed to be done, or we get like and we actually start to use our mind to like force things and make things to happen, and that's typically what gets us in trouble. So for example, I had a boyfriend before my husband, and I really felt called to this person. I was like, oh, there were so many signs, there was a lot of divine moments, and I was like, okay, this is my person, this is who I'm supposed to be with. I mean, spoiler alert, broke up with me, right? And I was devastated, and I thought, oh, like I was wrong, I totally screwed this up, blah blah blah. But now looking back, of course, I can see that I was correct. I was supposed to be with that person. I was supposed to go through all the things that I went through because it brought me to where I was. But what happened was that the minute my heart was being called to him, my brain came up with like its concepts and its ideas of what this was supposed to be. And I got very attached to this vision that I was forcing, that I was trying to create, that I was trying to bridge. And I became very attached to it. And then that's why I thought my heart was wrong. But the heart, that sounds familiar, Mona. Yes. So I'm sure it sounds familiar for many of us. So it's like we feel a certain way, and then all of a sudden we draw this really long bridge. And the truth is, and what we're going to talk about that a little bit more because I want to tell you kind of how the heart speaks, but the truth is the heart is not as linear, and strategic and logical as we would hope for, and that's why we typically try not to follow it or try not to listen to it, because we want to see the whole path. And when it doesn't show us like the whole path or the perfect path, we're either going to follow it and create our own path, whatever path we want to make, or we're just not going to follow it, right? And today I really want to talk about getting a little bit more used to being heart centered and heart led, and but we're gonna figure that out today. Okay.